Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you, as always, for stopping by. I'm deeply grateful. Let me start with some macro thoughts. Defense stocks jump after Trump's arms deals with Saudi Arabia, widening the gap to the S&P 500 to the most since the US election in early November. That's from Holger. Perfectly natural reaction. Breaking EU27 just adopted unanimity decision authorizing Article 50 negotiations, strong and clear mandate for Michel Barnier. Brexit. Even I am surprised at the performance of Bitcoin. And unfortunately, I did it. And there is a famous quotation by Lefebvre who says it's better to do right than say right. But I did say right when it came to Bitcoin on the 30th of December when I was recommending my trades for the year. I said the optimal portfolio at this moment looks like this, long Bitcoin. And it just hit $2,200. And when I recommended it, it was below 1,000. And my second recommendation was long Bitcoin, short gold on spread. Bitcoin hit $2,200, up nearly 10% yesterday. It's being accepted as currency by the Japanese, basically being mainstreamed. World's worst performing currencies. This is from Bloomberg. Home thoughts. I like this photograph from David Yarrow. I still find the sight of snow in East Africa totally incongruous. The white summit holds the eye. It is fabulous and surreal at the same time. Now, Dad has been in the hospital for about 26 or 27 days, and actually he's been released tomorrow. Looking forward to having him home. But I go there every evening. I drop Islam off as his driver come helper. A very good one. He spends the day with Dad, and then on my way back I pick Islam up and spend time with my dad. And whenever I enter the room, it's as if he's got so many different people in the room. When I arrive in the early evening, besides Islam, his sister Zarina, whom we have buried. And I listen very carefully, because if you tune in, he is speaking of the departed, and they clearly feel very real to him. He has also become extraordinarily intuitive at times. For example, we've had a fellow called Juma from Tanzania, Lesotho to be precise, which he's always told me I should visit, and maybe I will now, and who worked with us for about 35 years. Went rogue towards the end, became a big imbiber of palm wine and loose women. Yesterday we arranged to pay his dues, and he actually collected them during the morning. My father was not aware that we had made this payment, but Islam said that earlier that same morning he started speaking in Kiswahili, as if it were with Juma, who was evidently telling him how happy he was with the settlement. And there has been, frankly, a lot more of this nature. When I was in Mombasa this weekend with Daya, I made sure I stopped at my mother's grave and prayed by her grave, and for her to look after Dad, I was holding a broken umbrella and in the pouring rain. I've engaged that cemetery for eternity. I used to go with my grandfather in his dashant Jackie to my grandmother's grave, and then to his, and then to my mum's, and I got particularly annoyed when I learned the authorities were digging up the graves for no good reason, because there is no demographic dividend amongst the Ismailis in Mombasa, whereas reducing breed. And whenever I meet grave-digging fanatics, of which there are plenty, particularly in Islam, it makes my blood boil, but that's for another day. My father will always be a lion in my mind, and on that point I saw this photograph, The Ghost in the Darkness, a beautiful photograph by Will Burrard Lucas in the Busanga Plains in Zambia. I've got some photographs of my own of the snow peaks of Mount Kilimanjaro. Here's one. I think we were on our way to Maputo. So I took that one from 35,000 feet, and this is another one from the ground level as seen from the Mombasa-Nairobi road. It is a majestic mountain, and the park to visit is the Amboseli, because you see it in all its splendor in that park, plus all the elephants, about which I'm rather keen. I like this, an installation by the Mali artist Abulie Konate, Magnetic Memory, Historical Residence, at the Angola Pavilion. I was listening to Nina Simone, I Put a Spell on You. If you want to listen to that, just click on the link on Rich Wrap-Up's Political Reflections. It was really very sad to hear. I heard in the early morning that the UK police had confirmed that the Manchester blast was caused by a lone attacker, a suicide bomber in this Manchester arena explosion. It's disgusting, terrible. I can't understand why they feel they can take other people's lives with impunity. It's just outrageous. I wrote about this in April 2013 when I was trying to understand the psychology of these individuals. And I said this: there are more than 7 billion of us now in this 21st century world of ours. And the long tail in a population of 7 billion, I said, is not an insignificant absolute number. In statistics, a long tail of some distributions of numbers is the portion of the distribution having a large number of occurrences far from the head or central part of the distribution, i.e., Sanair brothers and whoever did this kind of thing. Put it a different way, there are surely many brothers Sanair in this new 21st century of ours, and whilst I appreciate Osama bin Laden is being nibbled by the fishes somewhere in the ocean, he basically inspired the likes of the brothers Sanair, those disaffected with the 21st century, and so many of them appear to be ones who've actually emigrated to these countries and have not been able to assimilate. In truth, that disaffection might have any number of reasons. And I am reminded of my French O-level, where I studied Albert Camus' L'Étranger, and Camus wrote this: the Byronic hero, incapable of love, and surely you are if you're murdering people, or capable only of an impossible love, suffers endlessly. He is solitary, languid, his condition exhausts him. If he wants to feel alive, it must be in the terrible exaltation of a brief and destructive action. And I think that's the truth. And the other question I've got to ask is, when they meet their maker, what is their maker going to say? Put up a photograph of the area around that Manchester attack. I've been to Old Trafford a few times. I know Manchester, actually. British Prime Minister Theresa May issued a statement following the Manchester explosion. She's actually handled these moments very well, I must say. I agree with what the Australian Prime Minister has said. He said it's especially vile, criminal, horrific, because it targeted children. And it's just outrageous. This, by the way, is the new Global Center for Combating Extremist Ideology from CNN. Israel, Donald Trump becomes the first sitting US president to visit the Western Wall. President Trump in Israel says, we have before us a rare opportunity to bring safety and security to this region. Trump's flight from Riyadh to Tel Aviv is, according to Israel's airport authority, the first ever direct flight between the two countries. Bloomberg is saying Trump makes Israel peace bid by trying to leverage Iran threat. Key point. I'm sure you'll agree, Iran has been the nefarious presence everywhere, hasn't it? You'd imagine they were a world power, the way people talk about them. Iran's support of extremist groups in the region is a threat both to Israel and the Arab states along the Persian Gulf, Trump said in a meeting with Israeli President Reuven Rivlin in Jerusalem. There's growing realization among your Arab neighbors that they have common cause with you in the threat posed by Iran. Indeed, they feel they have Netanyahu, I believe that together we can roll back Iran's march of aggression and terror in this region. So look, Iran is very much the rallying cry, but is Iran, as strong as it's being made out? I don't think so. What you're dealing with is populations that don't want to be ruled under Wahhabi extremist type policies, and they are rebelling against it, and Syria is a prime example. Where a bunch of people all live together. Try living like that in Saudi Arabia if you're a Christian. I'm gone from Twitter for like a few hours, and now Trump is holding a Palantir. What else have I missed? Is Bannon a wraith now? Very good. Trump during the campaign, I will never touch the orb, even though its mysterious glow seduces and beguiles. Sounds like Milton. He sold his soul for a plate of frog's legs, you will recall. My piece over the weekend was really Apocalypse Donald Trump. I said one suspects after a torrid week, President Trump could not wait to leave Washington. And I said if we're headed to an apocalypse Trump, then I'm afraid the dollar has a lot further to fall and the yen and gold have a lot further to go. And I also conclude by saying we are living, as far as I can see, in an unprecedented moment. Very interesting piece in the New York Review of Books, how he used Facebook to win by Sue Halpern. And what I find interesting was Obama had such a big lead in this micro-targeting game, and Hillary seemed to have lost it entirely. This article is saying while pundits were dissecting the collapse of Hillary Clinton's campaign, the journalists for Das magazine, Hannes Grassecker and Michael Krogerus, pointed to an entirely different explanation. The work at Cambridge Analytica, a data science firm created by a British company with deep ties to the British and American defense industries. According to Grassecker and Krogerus, Cambridge Analytica had used psychological data culled from Facebook paired with vast amounts of consumer information purchased from data mining companies to develop algorithms that were supposedly able to identify the psychological makeup of every voter in the American electorate. The company then developed political messages tailored to appeal to the emotions of each one, as the New York Times reporters Nicholas Confessori and Danny Hakim described it. A voter deemed neurotic might be shown a gun rights commercial featuring burglars breaking into a home, rather than a defense of the Second Amendment. Political ads warning of the dangers posed by the Islamic State could be targeted directly at voters prone to anxiety. Even more troubling was the underhanded way in which Cambridge Analytica appeared to have obtained its information using an Amazon site called Mechanical Turk. The company paid 100,000 people in the United States $1 or $2 to fill out an online survey, but in order to receive payment, these people were also required to download an app that gave Cambridge Analytica access to the profiles of their unwitting Facebook friends. These profiles included their Facebook likes and their own contact lists. According to the investigative reporter Matthias Schwartz, writing in The Intercept, a further 185,000 people were recruited from an unnamed data company to gain access to another 30 million Facebook profiles. Again, none of these 30 million people knew their data were being harvested and analyzed for the benefit of an American political campaign. Facebook did turn out to be essential to Trump's victory, but not in the way Grassecker, Krogerus and Schwartz suggest, though there is little doubt that Cambridge Analytica exploited members of the social network. Facebook's real influence came from the campaign's strategic and perfectly legal use of Facebook's suite of marketing tools. It should be noted that internal Facebook documents leaked in early May show that Facebook itself had been mining users' emotional states and sharing that information with advertisers. Very interesting article and very accurate, I think. There was a great deal of sophistication around that digital space. I touched on it briefly in my piece about, we have a deviate tomahawk. International markets, GDP growth in OECD area fell from 0.7% in Q4 to 0.4% in Q1. Notable declines in the US and UK stats. In the US, actually, it's always been a soft first quarter for the last few years, if I remember correctly. Inflation expectations have sunk. The Fed's preferred measure, inflation, fell in March to 1.8% from 2.1% a month earlier. In further evidence of declining price growth, the core consumer price index has dropped for 3 straight months to below the central bank's 2% target. Market-based gauges of inflation expectations are near the lowest since November, which is interesting. And given I think oil is going to go down, then that's all going to drag lower. Currency markets, let's take a look. Euro dollar 112.50. Merkel gave it a push yesterday, and I think it's going to 114.50. Dollar index 96.98. I think that goes towards 93.50. Japanese yen 111.24. Swissy 0.9742. The pound 129.81. The Australian dollar 0.7496. India rupee 64.795. South Korean won 11.2387. The rial 326.59. Egyptian pound 18.1023. And the rand is at 13.3102, and I think that's going to have a huge tumble at some point. The momentum that spurred the pound to the highest since September appears to be running out, speculates Bloomberg. Where are we last? 129.80. I think it's going to be, here and there now up until the election. And there were some interesting stats out about that election that Labour had made tremendous ground in Wales. But I'll have to go and inspect how much that will affect things. Dollar index drops to the weakest level since November. The Trump dollar has become the chump dollar. I think it's tilted towards 93.50, and we went there once before, I think a couple of years back. Euro dollar, very strong, 112.50 here, and my target is 114.50. I think that's pretty much a shoo-in for now. Commodity markets, gold, 12.59, 12.60. It's a geopolitical proxy, and it's probably anticipating Trump's return to Washington, because we can expect a lot of shoes to drop then. Oil prices, take a look. This is from the FT. I think we're now very close to 2017 highs for the year. I don't see that OPEC is going to do much, and if Trump does what apparently is proposing, which is to sell off half the US strategic oil reserve, then oil prices are going to tank. Emerging markets, Brazil's sell-off resumes as Temer's corruption defense falls flat. Bovespa drops 1.8%, while Brazilian real is down more than 1%. Have a look at this. This is dollar versus ruble. Let's move on to Africa. This shocked me. Conflict forces more people to flee homes in the Congo than in Syria. Conflict has forced at least 1.5 million people to flee their homes within the DRC this year, more than triple the number uprooted within Syria, and 5 times the number within Iraq, an aid group said on Monday. More than 922,000 people were driven from their homes by conflict within Congo in 2016, compared with 824,000 in Syria and 659,000 in Iraq. DRC's largely forgotten crisis superseded all other crises in terms of the number of people forced to flee their homes. President Kabila, however, has outwitted Moise Katumbi by removing him from the street in the Congo entirely, and for now seems to be prepared to sit in his palace whilst the country burns. The US has a big stake in Africa's success, as a lead editorial in Bloomberg View. Troops mutiny in the Ivory Coast, Ebola resurfaces in the DR Congo, Zambia jails its most prominent opposition leader, corruption deepens in South Africa. These recent headlines are a reminder that terrorism, violent extremism aren't the only challenges facing sub-Saharan Africa. Yet the Trump administration shows little interest in the continent beyond this narrow concern. That's a mistake. The US has a stake in Africa's broader stability and prosperity. I couldn't agree more. If Trump does nothing, 50% of South Sudan's population could soon be gone. It's just outrageous. Crimes against humanity, mass atrocities, mass displacement, While these terms accurately describe the conflict in Syria, they are equally applicable to South Sudan's ongoing civil war. Left to its present trajectory of displacement and famine, roughly half of South Sudan's population will have died of starvation or fled the country by the war's 4th anniversary in December, an occurrence nearly unprecedented in modern history. The AFDB released their African Economic Outlook 2017, and they're saying growth slowed down to 2.2% from 3.4% in 2015 to 2.2% in 2016, a 20-year low. But they're more optimistic. They always are. Expected to rebound to 3.4% in 2017 and 4.3% in 2018. So have a look at that. That link is there as well on Rich Wrap-Ups. 4th person in probable Ebola death in the Congo, reports WHO. And I wrote about Ebola before, and I said it's not about the absolute numbers, it's about the escape velocity. Viruses exhibit non-linear and exponential characteristics. 4 can become 4,000 very quickly, and then 400,000. Breaking, Gambia's Jammeh stole $50 million worth of assets, and his assets are frozen. South African all shares up 7.63% this year. Dollar versus rand, last time I took a look, 13.26. See you all when it gets to 14.40. The dead are bidding for government business in South Africa. South Africa's National Treasury has discovered that 12,000 dead people in its register of companies that do business with the state. You can't make it up. Egyptian pound steady at 18.10. They hiked rates, you will recall. It has been estimated that from 2005 to 2014, some $182 billion was lost through illicit financial flows from Nigeria. Just think about that. Nigerian all shares up 4.48% this year. New Bank of Ghana boss cuts borrowing costs at his first meeting by 100 basis points. I was bullish at the beginning of the year about Ghana. I see lower interest rates and a stronger economy. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is up 13.83% this year. The Renaissance Capital economist Yvonne Mahango says she's assuming GDP growth will be 4% this year. The price of milled corn, a staple food known as unga in Kenya, rose to as high as 155 shillings for a 2-kilogram bag from 103 shillings just a year ago. That fueled annual food inflation of 21% in April, the fastest pace since February 2012, and squeezed families in a country where almost half the population lives on less than $2 a day. Kenyan corn millers say they warned the government twice in the past 6 months the country faced a shortage of the staple that's left strategic reserves at less than a day's supply. If you believe in the conspiracy theory, you can understand why that warning went unheeded. Car in General reported a first-half loss of 33.099 million shillings. Revenue was up 8%, but it's had a net foreign exchange loss of 54.211 million, and they're saying it was actually higher. And that's pushed it into a loss. We continue to invest heavily in 5 new businesses, mainly Doosan construction equipment, Kubota tractors, Toyota forklifts, MRF and TVS motorcycles in Tanzania due to devaluations across the region, where there was an adverse forex movement of 83 million shillings. Talked about the restriction on bank financing resulting from the interest rate cap. Volumes in our equipment businesses, generators, construction equipment, tractors and forklifts declined. Tanzania, they said the economy is extremely challenging given current government reforms. That's interesting. And that they're exiting, but they said that last year, the poultry business in due course. Nairobi all shares up 5.62% this year, closed at a fresh 7-month high. NSE 20 closed at a 9-month high. It's up 3.45% this year. Once again, thank you for stopping